Lord Jesus, would you open our hearts and minds to what you have to say to us today by your Spirit? Amen. So we're in John 15. If you have a Bible with you, you can open it to John 15. If you've got a pew Bible near you, I don't know what page it's on. My Bible, it's on page 1369. But as I said last week, I have a special Bible, so it may not be the same. But one of the reasons I still encourage people to look at the Bible, I know it's old-fashioned, is that the Bible on your phone doesn't allow you to make notes, and it doesn't go into your brain in the same way as looking at an actual Bible. So I'm still going to stick with this thing of encouraging people to look at the Bible. I don't mind if nobody does. My job's to say it, and it's up to you if it lands. But I do encourage you, open the Bible and look, because you will see different things when you look to when you just listen. And I do not want you to take my word for it, or anyone else's word for it in a pulpit. Read the Bible for yourself. Okay, sermon over, now the actual sermon. John 15, the vine and the branches. You've heard this one before. Raise a hand if you have. Almost everybody's heard it before. Anyone here had a go at growing vines ever? I know a few people have. Yeah, so you know something of it. So I'm not going to talk too much about vines because we need a different image, I think. I will talk about vines, but we won't dwell in the gardening image too much because I'm not the expert gardener in my house. So I'm not sure what a weed is, really. I am the true vine, says Jesus, and my Father is the gardener. He cuts off every branch in me that bears no fruit, while every branch that does bear fruit, he prunes, so that it will be even more fruitful. It starts off with this kind of stark warning. If you're not bearing fruit, you get cut off. And yet, if there's fruit, we'll prune it, we'll do some work so that it might bear more fruit. The big message of this story is that we're to stick close to Jesus, that we're to remain in him. We're to stick close to Jesus. And we know this already, but yet that image of being connected or cut off is quite stark. If you've ever cut something that's growing, you'll quickly find, unless it's certain things, I know there's gardeners that will tell me, well, no, that will reseed itself. Okay, let's just stick with the idea that if you cut something off, it is no longer alive, it is dead, it has ceased to be. Quoting the Dead Parrot sketch, but nobody gets that right now. It has ceased to be. When we have cut flowers in church, they look beautiful the moment they're cut, but they're no longer living because they're no longer attached to the plant that they came from. So it really is a stark image for us. What are the consequences if we don't stick close to Jesus? We need to stay close to Jesus. We need to stay connected. Being connected, though, is hard, and I'm going to talk about that. I have 3 reasons why we might not be connected, and I'm going to get to that. But I want to use a different image, and I've probably used this one before because it involves a train, and once or twice I've mentioned trains in sermons. But one of the things I found fun about learning Greek in seminary was I was able to join the dots between how the Greek I was learning was connected to things I already knew. I kind of did Greek for dummies, if I'm honest, and we had a great teacher, and he basically started out by saying, I'm going to tell you all the Greek you already know without realizing it. So Polly put the kettle on, Suki took it off again. Do you know that? So Suki is the Greek word for took. That's how I remember that one. So it was that kind of a class. We'd kind of like find these Greek words. Okay, so I want you to imagine, if you will, an electric train, and it has wires over the top. Just nod at me if you've ever seen a picture of one of these or been on one of these. They're very common in Europe. There's some in the States. There's none around here. But essentially, you've got your train, and then there's something on the top of the train that reaches to the overhead wires, the overhead power, the power that comes from above. You can see where this is going, I hope. Right? And so there's power above, normally quite a lot of power, 25,000 volts AC, if you want the number, depending on where you are. So there's the power from above. And on the top of the train, there needs to be something that reaches up, and it's like an arm that reaches up. It's kind of a Z-shaped arm, or Z-shaped arm, that reaches up and touches the wire. And that thing is called a pantograph. And you might think, well, that's very nice. What's that got to do with the vine and the branches? A proper electric train that doesn't have a clever battery backup, a proper electric train will only work if it is touching the power source. It's not going to go very far if it's not touching the power source. So what I learned from my Greek was that the word that the rail industry uses to describe the hand that reaches the power, the word they use is pantograph. Pantograph, pan, which in Greek means kind of above or over. You think of Pan Am, there were an airline in the States, no longer exists, but Pan Am all across, all over, or pan is above. Graph, graphic, grapho is the Greek word. It means to draw or to write. But when we draw something, we would call it a graphic, okay? And so the word pantograph literally means to draw from above. To draw from above. Now, I don't mind if you don't find that interesting, but I just think it's the most beautiful thing. There it is. It's a term engineers use to describe the piece of the train that gets the power source that keeps it going. And it comes from Greek words meaning to draw from above. And if we want to remain connected to Jesus, we need to reach up and draw from above. We need to draw from above. Now, pushing the train analogy a tiny bit further, and any of your electricians will know something of this, that you want to have, if you've got different ginormous electrical circuits, as we do with BC Hydro, you'll want to have some sections between them so that you can isolate one and not another. And so on the railway, they have what's called a neutral section. And a neutral section means there's still overhead wires, but it's neutral. There's no power coming through it. And so when a train is traveling at 200 kilometers an hour, the pantograph, and it gets to a neutral section, will drop with a bang. It's meant to do that, but if you're in the carriage, it's like, what's that noise? It's the pantograph dropping down as the train carries on with the kinetic energy, taking it through to the next neutral section, at which point the pantograph raises again and once again draws power from above. You do not want your train to be going slowly into a neutral section, because it will do what was termed in the industry, and this is a technical term, it will do something that they call sitting down. When they said a train has sat down somewhere, it means it's dead. It has ceased to be. The pantograph has fallen down, it can't get any more power, and it's stuck in a neutral section with no hope unless a Thunderbird comes and rescues it and tows it away. And so, you can't carry on without being connected to the power for very long. You can for a little bit, but not too long. Now, don't push this analogy too far. I'm aware the SkyTrain runs with wires, with additional rails at the bottom, which would be drawing from below, and I'm not saying the SkyTrain's made of the devil and, just... Pantograph, to draw from above. And we know this, and that's why I asked, have you heard about the vine and the branches? And you have. We know the importance of being connected. And yet, I don't know about you, but reaching my hand in the air after a while gets tiring. And the easiest thing to do after a while is to let my arm fall down. Again, just using the image. You don't have to go around walking around like this, but there is something of that. It's tiring. If you are someone that likes to raise your hand in worship, it's a sacrifice because it's harder to hold your hand up than to have your hand by your side. And that's one of the reasons that we say you might want to do that as a way of reaching up. It's not that you can't receive power from on high with your hand, but there's something about when you're raising your hand, it's harder work, and there's a sense of sacrifice in doing it. And so we need to remain connected to our power source, to stay close to Jesus. We need to draw from above. We need to be careful that when we go through life, we don't spend too long with our hands down in a neutral section, because we might get stuck and sit down. And it's very hard when you're stuck and sat down to get out of that place. Verse 4, Jesus says, "Remain in me as I remain in you." And that word remain in the Greek meno, it means three things in English. Preachers will often mention the Greek word, and that's because any of you that speak more than one language will know that you can't translate things perfectly from one language to another. And so the word that says remain, that's a good word. Another two words we could use in the English would be to abide. Abide in me, remain in me, and stay. Just stay in me. Stay. We're to stay in Jesus, who is the vine. But I know all of this, David. It's easier said than done. Jesus tells us, verse 5, "I am the vine, you are the branches. If you remain in me, you will bear much fruit. Apart from me," like the train with a pantograph down, sat in the neutral section, "apart from me, you can do nothing." But if you remain in me, and my words remain in you, ask whatever you wish, and it will be done for you. This is to my Father's glory, that you will bear much fruit. We see the blessing of remaining in the vine is fruit, is that we'll grow an abundance of fruit. And the fruit might be the fruits of the Spirit, for example. The fruit might be seeing how God will use us in our lives. But I think there's three reasons that as much as we know about the vine and the branches, or as you now have the image of the pantograph reaching up and drawing power from above, there's three reasons why I think we might not remain. And none of them are intentional. I don't think anyone wakes up and says, "All right, Jesus, well, I know you said remain in me, but today, I'm not going to." I think there's three reasons. Number one, life is good. Life is good. It's so easy, isn't it? When life is good, to forget Jesus. Well, I don't feel the need to pray because everything's going well. All the traffic lights on Lougheed Highway are green. And when all the traffic lights are green, you can just drive. Well, it is rare, that's true. I normally only have it when I don't need to be somewhere. That's what I find. The same, I think I was driving along Dewdney yesterday, and the lights kept changing to green. I was like, wow, why couldn't they do this if I actually needed to be somewhere in a hurry? But if all the lights are green, we haven't got time to stop. That's the image. Life is good. The lights are all green. I haven't got time to stop and think because I'm focused on where I'm going and what I'm doing. And because life is good, I haven't got time to think about Jesus. Well, I would read my Bible, but I've got this party to go to, or I've got this family event, or My team is finally doing quite well. Only 3 people got that. I think there's a hockey team around that's doing quite well. I'm not going to go there. But there are things, when life is good, it's hard to remain close to Jesus. Second reason, life is bad. And we feel far from God. And we might be angry at God. And we say, I don't want to be anywhere near you, Jesus. I don't want to be connected to the vine, because I was connected to the vine, and now look what's happened. I'm sick, or my family is sick, or we've run out of money, or I've lost my job, or I've seen some Christian on the news say something bad, and it wants me to be distanced from the church. I feel far from you. So we might disconnect our pantographs. We might disconnect from the vine because we're angry and we feel far from God. And it doesn't matter how many times I tell you that God is still with you in the hard times. You go, yeah, I know. I'm just not in a good place and I don't want to talk to God right now. I don't want to be at church right now. I don't want to read my Bible because I'm angry. And so we disconnect from the vine because we're in a great place, because we're in a terrible place. And if I haven't got most of you with those two, then my third one I think is the worst. I'm bored. Have you ever heard that phrase? If you have children, I guarantee you have. If you're a teacher, I guarantee you have. If you're married to someone, I guarantee you have. I'm bored. I am bored. Being bored doesn't mean that there's nothing we could do. It's just maybe stuff has lost its spark or we've lost joy. I'm bored. I'm bored of singing those same hymns again. I'm bored of hearing the same Bible readings again and again. I'm bored of us always having the same confession or the same absolution or the same communion prayer or the same blessing. I'm bored. We can get bored in our faith. I'm bored of going to the same church and sitting in the same seat. Bored of David always wearing the same blue shirt. It's so tedious. But I think I'm messing around, but boredom, I mean, just give me a nod if that's the thing for anyone here. 2 or 3 people, okay. We can be bored. If you've been in church a long time, we can get bored. We can get bored of being connected. And in the church's year, because we go through the liturgical year, it's like it's Christmas, and then it's Epiphany, and then it's Lent, and then it's Easter, and then it's Ascension Day, and then it's Pentecost, and then it's ordinary time. If you weren't bored by all those things, ordinary time gets quite boring. And then after ordinary time, well, maybe we'll do a bit of creation season in September, and then before we know it, it's the kingdom season, and we're looking to Advent, and back we go again, round in the cycle. And I think we have this weird relationship in the church with familiarity and boredom, because we both want things to be the same, and we also don't. But by and large, as people, we're always going to steer towards things being the same. That's why change is hard in the life of the church. If we had a Christmas service and did not sing, Hark the Herald Angels Sing, O Come All Ye Faithful, and list some others, I would get letters. The bishop would probably get letters. Just to let you know, if you write to the bishop, he'll let me know, so do tell me first. But anyway, but if we don't sing certain things, you say, but I want those things. And yet also I want Christmas to be different than it was last year. So should I tell you my trick? Sometimes what I do is I use the same songs and I change the order. Because then we did exactly what you wanted, but it was just, that felt different to last year. I know that's because last year we started with Hark the Herald and finished with O Come Ye Faithful, and this year we swapped them over. But yet, if we don't sing those same 6 or 7 carols, it doesn't feel like Christmas. And when we do, it does. So I think being bored may be not the word for you. It might be being staid or tired in faith. But I think those are reasons we can lose connection with Jesus, because we're just a bit tired. We're just a bit bored. And now it may be that you're in a place of going, you know what, I am so on fire for the Lord. I'm so connected to the vine. I can feel the 25,000 volts of energy coming through, that power from on high, and that's amazing, and bless you, and sign up to do some ministries, and great. But if you're not in that place, I guess what I'm saying is it's not up to me to give permission, but I'm just using this language. I want to give you permission to say, you know what, I could do with reconnecting. I'll pray and then we'll have some music. So God, thank you for this image of the vine and the branches, and we thank you that you call us, Jesus, to be connected to you. Help us whether life is good or whether we feel far from you, or whether we're just in a season of being bored or tired with faith. Help us to stay connected, to reach our hands to heaven, and to draw from above. Amen.